contributions. Maxwell then helped him reinvent himself, including his wardrobe, and ran his social calendar at the same time.
A disgraced British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell has given her first filmed interview from prison. The 61-year-old.
It's like she was the party because she was so glamorous, beautifully dressed.
Right now, Prince Harry's on British soil. And no, this isn't some reunion or charity event. Something's brewing and he's aware of it. Ghislaine Maxwell, yeah, that one. She's been speaking from her Florida prison cell. And one of the names coming up, Meghan Markle. Not the Duchess, not the activist we see on TV. We're discussing Meghan from way back, from a life most people don't know existed. Old photos are popping up again, timelines aren't making sense, and Harry, he's scrambling. Stick around, because what you're about to hear changes how you see their whole story. Before we dive in, hit that like and subscribe. What I'm going to show you involves disappearing photos and connections that go way deeper than you think. You don't want to miss this. Let's get into it. So here's the thing. Ghislaine Maxwell is sitting in that Florida prison cell right now, and she's got absolutely nothing left to protect. No empire, no powerful friends on the outside, no future deals to negotiate.
This time, it's none other than Ghislaine Maxwell. Yeah, that Ghislaine. The woman
When someone's in that position, they become dangerous in a completely different way. They don't need to keep secrets anymore. They don't need to protect reputations. They've got zero incentive to stay quiet, and that's when details start spilling out. And boy, has she started opening up. According to sources who are familiar with what's going down, she's been bringing up names from her elite party scene. We're not discussing last year or even 5 years ago. We're going way back to the mid-2000s circuit, when she was at the center of everything. Back when she was connected to everyone who mattered, attended every exclusive gathering, and had her fingers in every world that counted. And guess whose name appears repeatedly in these conversations? Meghan Markle. Not the Meghan we see now with the titles and the Netflix deals and the carefully crafted public image. This is before anyone really recognized her. Back when she was just a cable TV actress that most people didn't know. You could walk past her on the street and have no idea she'd one day marry into the British monarchy.
She had this invisible butterfly net. And she would go out in the social scene at London.
She was nobody special yet, just another person trying to make it in Hollywood. But here's what's interesting. Even back then, she was moving through these high-end parties, the kind of environments where having the right relationships could completely change your trajectory overnight. These weren't your typical Hollywood scenes. We're talking about exclusive spaces where the entertainment industry mixed with serious money and serious power. The kind of rooms where one introduction could open doors that would otherwise stay locked forever. Maxwell's been hinting that there's way more she could share about that time period, about who attended, about what really went down at these functions, about how certain people navigated through these worlds and climbed the social ladder. And listen, when someone who used to organize these types of parties starts revealing details, people pay attention because she didn't just show up, she helped create them. She was familiar with the guest lists inside and out. She understood who was invited and why. She grasped how the whole system operated.
The same woman who's allegedly still in prison but has been suspiciously quiet for a while. Until now.
The mid-2000s timeframe is crucial here. This was before Meghan had any real fame, before she had any platform, before anyone was watching her moves. It was a period when she could attend these private functions without cameras following her around, without tabloids tracking her every step. Just another ambitious person trying to climb upward, building relationships with people who could help her get where she wanted to go. And that's exactly what's got Harry concerned right now. Because Maxwell isn't just throwing names around randomly. She's mentioning a specific era, specific types of exclusive scenes, and specific social dynamics that Meghan was part of before she became the Duchess of Sussex. The woman who helped run these elite worlds is now saying Meghan's name was part of that life. And if Maxwell continues revealing more, if she decides to share additional details about what she recalls, about who attended which functions and when, that's a problem Harry can't fix with a PR team.
New. We just didn't know. People weren't paying attention.
Now, here's where things get really strange. There are certain visuals floating around the internet that keep playing this weird game of hide and seek. They'll pop up on a website, get some attention, and then boom, they're gone. Just vanished. No explanation, no trace. Then a few weeks later, they'll reappear on some random forum, people start sharing them again, and they're taken down once more. It's been going on for years now. This constant cycle of surfacing and vanishing. So what's actually in these shots? Well, they show Meghan at parties that don't quite match up with the story we've all been told about her pre-royal life. We're talking about private functions, exclusive gatherings, where she's surrounded by people who later became controversial figures. Not your typical Hollywood red carpet stuff. These are the behind-the-scenes moments, the intimate settings where the real networking happened. The locations in these visuals matter too. We're seeing Meghan in places during specific time periods.
Was a semi-expensive yacht girl, and she knows it.
Many of you have seen this picture already. You see that
that raise questions. New York during particular years, Soho House openings where the guest list wasn't exactly your average crowd, environments where controversial individuals were known to be present, even if they're not in every single frame. It's the context that makes these shots significant, not just who's visible in them. But here's what really stands out. Getty Images, one of the biggest photo archives in the entire world, quietly restricted access to some of this material. No public statement, no press release, no explanation whatsoever. Visuals that were previously available for licensing just weren't anymore. Searches that used to return results started coming up empty. When a massive institution like that moves to basically memory hole content rather than just leaving it accessible, they're admitting something without saying it out loud.
All the charges, and Ransom's claims are not part of this case against her. Ransom, who is now 37 years old.
They're telling you that what's shown changes the narrative, that it reveals proximity people would prefer stayed theoretical. And listen, when someone's working overtime to scrub material from the internet, you've got to wonder what's in them that's so problematic. Because here's the thing about the digital age. Nothing actually vanishes forever. Too many people saved copies before the takedown started. Too many witnesses remember exactly what they saw. Too many forums archived the discussions before they got deleted. The internet doesn't forget, even when powerful people want it to. Now that Maxwell's been dropping names, this material isn't just resurfacing randomly. It's being looked at with completely different eyes. People are going back through old archives, digging through saved files, comparing timelines. What used to seem like innocent party snapshots from an ambitious actress's past.
Others whisper he investigates, and when he caught wind of that suspicious 17 magazine issue, he knew he'd struck gossip gold.
Look very different when you know the full context of who else was in those rooms and what was happening behind closed doors. It's not even about what's explicitly shown. It's about what they imply. It's about the fact that Meghan was present in these spaces during these years, around these people. And when you start connecting those dots, when you line up the timeline with everything else we know, the carefully constructed fairy tale starts developing some serious cracks. The scrubbing effort almost makes it worse, because if there was nothing to hide, why go through all that trouble? Why pull content from one of the world's largest databases? Why make them harder to find unless they reveal something that contradicts the story we've been given? If you want to understand how someone goes from being an unknown cable actress to ending up at gatherings with billionaires and royalty,
napkins. But that brand only works if people believe the foundation, if they trust that the person selling them empowerment and authenticity.
You need to understand Soho House. On the surface, it looks innocent enough. A private members club for creative people. Trendy, artsy, the kind of place where actors and directors hang out. But behind that branding, it operated as a completely different entity. It was a corridor connecting separate universes. A bridge linking Hollywood to finance, linking nobodies to power, linking anonymity to access. In 2015, Meghan got flown out to Istanbul for a Soho House opening. Now, she wasn't the headliner at this thing. She wasn't even particularly well known yet. Most people wouldn't have recognized her if she walked past them. According to sources familiar with these types of events, she was what insiders call atmosphere filler, brought in to make the space look good, to populate the venue, to maintain the right vibe.
Years crafting this image of victimhood and empowerment. Maxwell allegedly pointed directly at her and claimed there's a...
But these openings weren't just random parties where creative types mingled over cocktails. They were magnets for exactly the kind of crowd you'd expect at high-level networking gatherings. Wealthy individuals who valued discretion, people with royal-adjacent ties, Hollywood power brokers who understood that real deals don't happen on red carpets. They happen in private settings where phones aren't allowed and guest lists never get published. The kind of environment where the entertainment industry crossed paths with serious money and serious influence. And here's where questions started popping up, even back then. Colleagues from Meghan's television work used to wonder privately about a detail that didn't quite add up. How was she affording this lifestyle? International flights to Turkey, premium accommodations.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
In the dark, behind the walls, but those prison walls cannot stop her from talking, Ghislaine
A level of mobility that seemed way beyond what a cable show actress would typically have access to. Nobody asked these questions out loud, of course. In those environments, you don't. You just observe. You just file it away. And years later, when she's suddenly a duchess married to a prince, those observations start looking very different. Because Soho House wasn't just where Meghan built her network. It's where Prince Andrew used to hang out. It's where controversial figures overlapped with British royalty, with Hollywood, with everyone who mattered in those intersecting spheres. The same venues, the same types of gatherings, the same windows of time. And when you realize that these spaces served as meeting grounds for all these different power structures, it stops looking like coincidence. The club openings in places like Istanbul weren't about celebrating a new location.
When she says that she had nothing to do and she had no idea, she was a facilitator.
They were about bringing together particular types of people who wouldn't normally cross paths in their everyday lives. An actress from a cable show doesn't typically end up at the same event as finance executives and royal adjacent figures unless there's a deliberate structure making those introductions happen. And Meghan was really good at navigating that structure, at making herself valuable in those spaces, at ensuring she got invited back. What colleagues observed wasn't just that she attended these events. It was the frequency, the international scope, the access level. She wasn't struggling to make rent like most actresses at her career stage. She was flying business class to exclusive openings in foreign countries. She was staying at places that require serious money. And her television salary from a basic cable show just didn't explain that kind of lifestyle.
Character name because for some reason, she wants to portray herself as this demure person. This woman who has...
There was clearly another funding source, another avenue providing access, and that avenue involved being present in particular elite networks during key years. Let's discuss February 2016, because this is where things start getting messy. According to the public romance narrative that's been sold to everyone, this is when Harry and Meghan first met. They had a blind date in London, set up by a mutual friend. Romantic, spontaneous, totally by chance. The kind of meet cute that fairy tales are made of. Two people from different universes colliding at the perfect moment. That's what we've all heard, repeated in interviews, in documentaries, in every piece of PR that's come out about their relationship. Except there's something odd. According to sources who were tracking Meghan's movements during this exact period,
Markle's drama couldn't sink any deeper. Boom. It just did. And this time, it's not the usual gossip. It's Ghislaine Maxwell.
February 2016 is also when she was traveling. We're not discussing a quick weekend trip or a publicity appearance. Sources claim she was on vacation getaways during this same window of time. The kind of trips that don't show up on Instagram. The kind where everything's kept low-key and discreet. The way celebrities often handle breaks when they don't want media attention. Now, if you're not familiar with how these work, they're basically luxury vacations where groups of friends take extended breaks at resorts or private locations. These aren't advertised anywhere. There are no public records of who went or when. Phones are typically put away because everyone values their privacy during downtime. The discretion level is high, and the people who go aren't there as random tourists. They're there because they were invited by friends, because they fit into a particular friend group that wanted to vacation together.
The information around Jeffrey Epstein. So the judge has denied the DOJ's request.
So here's what nobody's been able to answer satisfactorily. How does someone go on one of these week-long vacations during the same month they supposedly met their future husband for the first time in London? The timing doesn't work. Did she fly back to London midweek, meet Harry, and then return to wherever she was? That seems logistically complicated and oddly convenient timing-wise. Or maybe both things happened, but not in the way we've been told. Maybe the timing overlaps in ways that make what we've heard seem a bit too sanitized. Maybe the meet-cute narrative got polished up for public consumption before it was rolled out to the press. Because when you're dealing with the British monarchy and you're about to introduce someone into that institution, you can't exactly tell the public that your relationship started in more complicated circumstances.
Talking, and not just about Epstein. She's pointing a very polished, manicured finger straight at Meghan Markle and the story she's telling.
The public account is clean, simple, romantic. Mutual friend, instant connection, love at first sight. But the alternative timeline that sources have pieced together suggests Meghan was doing something different that month. She was maintaining friendships with a completely separate crowd, taking vacations with friends that required the kind of ties she'd been building through places like Soho House. And here's what makes this particularly interesting. The timing matters because it establishes what Meghan was doing and who she was spending time with right up until the moment she entered Harry's life. If she was still on these friend vacations in February 2016, and if the London meeting is also accurate, then there's a very narrow window between one lifestyle and another. Between the woman vacationing with one group of friends
everyone was looking at is the reaction from Ghislaine Maxwell. It was hard to see if she was showing any real emotion because there was a...
and the woman who became a duchess. Either the dates don't line up and someone's got their facts wrong about when things actually happened, or Meghan was juggling two very different social lives simultaneously. And if it's the latter, that raises concerns about what Harry understood when he met her, what he was told about her recent activities, and whether what they eventually told the public was the complete picture or a more palatable account designed to avoid uncomfortable inquiries about where she'd just been and what she'd just been doing with her friends. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Meghan's not the first woman with a complicated history to marry into European royalty. Not even close. There's actually a blueprint here. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's happened multiple times, and the approach is remarkably similar every single time. Take Princess Sophia of Sweden, for example.
Poured his best buddy Ghislaine Maxwell, and Rachel Maddow broke it down right here.
No criminal, certainly no one convicted.
Before she had that title and tiara, she had a whole modeling career that raised plenty of eyebrows. We're talking about glamour work from the mid-2000s, the exact same time period when Meghan was building her network. Scrutiny came up about Sophia's history, about the types of shoots she did, about the scenes she moved through during those years. But here's what happened. She met Prince Carl Philip. They got engaged, and suddenly all those uncomfortable inquiries just kind of faded into the background. Time passed, she got a new identity, and everyone moved forward. Then there's Mette Marit of Norway. Her situation was even more direct. In 2019, she actually had to come out publicly and address friendships she'd maintained years earlier. She called it poor judgment, basically admitting that she'd been connected to people whose reputations later became problematic.
Ghislaine Maxwell was proven to be a co-conspirator, so the immunity deal should have actually followed.
But by that point, she'd already been crown princess for years. She had children, she had status, she had moved on. The apology was noted, the media covered it for a news cycle, and then everyone moved forward. Both of these individuals had histories that would have been deal breakers in previous generations. The scrutiny they faced when their relationships first became public was intense. Commentators questioned whether they were appropriate matches, whether what came before would create problems, whether they truly understood what joining meant. And in both cases, time made a difference. The modern reality is that finding partners with completely spotless records was becoming nearly impossible, and the relationships continued despite the controversy. What's fascinating is how similar the approach is to Meghan's situation. Someone with a history that doesn't fit the traditional mold meets a prince.
Still an option for her. Being pardoned by Donald Trump, who famously said, "I'm allowed to pardon."
Scrutiny gets raised about their background, about who they knew, about what they did before the relationship started. Initial media frenzy happens, uncomfortable details surface, and then something interesting occurs. Time passes, and either people accept it or they don't. With Sophia and Mette Marit, that process worked. The scrutiny faded as years went by. They had children, they took on duties, and eventually what came before became old news that nobody wanted to rehash anymore. It's not that the information disappeared, it's that continuing to bring it up started seeming petty or irrelevant once enough time had passed and they'd built new lives. Meghan's situation fits this exact blueprint. Before Harry, there were concerns about her lifestyle, her connections, how she afforded certain things on a cable actress salary.
Emails reveal that Maxwell has been transferred from a low-security federal facility in Florida to a minimum security prison.
After the engagement was announced, some of those concerns got louder, more people started digging into what came before, and uncomfortable details started circulating. The difference is that with Meghan, time didn't get a chance to work its magic. Instead of staying put and letting things settle naturally, Harry and Meghan left. They moved to California, they did tell-all interviews, they positioned themselves as victims rather than letting time do what it had done for others. Simply let the past become less relevant as new chapters unfolded. Now here's where the Soho House link becomes even more important than just being a place where Meghan networked. Because it's not just where she socialized and built relationships, it's literally where she met Harry. The whole origin of their relationship runs directly through this club.
Jessica, let's talk about the actual counts that Maxwell was convicted of. Why was it that she wasn't found?
And when you understand that, the random blind date narrative starts looking a lot more strategic. The mutual friend who supposedly set them up, that was Marcus Anderson, a director at Soho House. Now, this isn't some casual acquaintance who happened to know both of them. Marcus was deeply embedded in the exact same scene that Meghan had been navigating for years. He knew her from her networking days, from the time she spent attending openings and building ties with the right crowd. He understood exactly who she was, what environments she moved through, and what her ambitions were. And Marcus wasn't just friends with Harry. He had access to him through the club's membership. It had become a favorite spot for certain members of the British elite, including people in Harry's orbit. So when Marcus decided to bring Meghan and Harry together, this wasn't some spontaneous,
single parent, lower
income households. This is the woman who is looking to get her conviction.
Oh, you two would be great together moment. This was someone who understood both sides making a very calculated move between two people who existed in overlapping, but separate spheres. Think about what that means. Harry, a prince who'd spent his entire life inside the institutional bubble, gets brought together with Meghan through someone who came directly from the same structure where she'd been building her profile for years. The same club that hosted those exclusive openings where wealthy individuals and entertainment figures mixed. The same membership where doors opened for people who knew how to navigate the system correctly. And Marcus was right at the center of that ecosystem, serving as the bridge between Meghan's climbing trajectory and Harry's position. So when we hear about this blind date, we have to ask,
so how does it all look? Is my hair good?
The States, you don't grow up with the same.
Was it really blind? Did Harry know anything about Meghan's history before meeting her, or was he given a curated version? Did Marcus brief him on who she was and what she'd been doing, or did he just facilitate the meeting and let Harry figure it out? Because there's a massive difference between a genuine blind date where two people know nothing about each other and a strategic arrangement where one person has been carefully positioned to meet someone they've been wanting to access. The club framework provided the perfect cover for this type of arrangement. It's exclusive enough that meeting through these channels seems natural and prestigious. It's discreet enough that the full context of how someone got into that membership doesn't need to be discussed. And it's well-positioned enough that a referral from someone like Marcus would carry weight and credibility. Harry wouldn't necessarily question how Meghan ended up in that scene.
Picture of Meghan's pre-royal life, one that's less Hallmark actress and more adult-themed entertainment.
The club's brand makes it seem like she belonged there naturally. But when you trace back how Meghan actually got into that environment, when you look at the types of gatherings she attended and who she was photographed with, when you consider the lifestyle she was maintaining on a cable actress salary, this avenue starts looking less like a coincidental meeting place and more like a strategic gateway. It served as the vehicle that took Meghan from where she'd been operating and delivered her directly into Harry's path. The whole setup was perfect. Marcus facilitates the meeting. Harry sees an attractive actress who seems to run in appropriate crowds, and nobody asks too many questions about how she got there or what she was doing before Marcus decided to connect them. The membership gave her an air of legitimacy, a credential that made her seem like a suitable person for a prince to date.
Resume kind of CV? No. This is supposedly a document that paints a very different picture of Meghan's pre-royal life.
And Harry, isolated in his institutional bubble, probably had no idea what the complete picture was. So now we arrive at the current situation, and this is where everything comes full circle. Remember, this is the guy who went on television with Oprah and publicly called out his relatives. He's the person who produced an entire documentary series for Netflix where he aired all their private business. He's the man who wrote a best-selling memoir where he threw everyone from his father to his brother under the bus, sharing intimate details that should have stayed behind closed doors. Harry spent years burning every bridge he had with the people he was born into. He positioned himself and Meghan as victims of a cruel, outdated system. He claimed they were driven out, that they had no choice but to leave, that his relatives were unsupportive and even harmful to their well-being.
Ghislaine Maxwell was the socialite whose manners and magnetism attracted princes.
The entire message was built around them being the wronged parties who had to escape for their own survival. And now he's rushing back to the UK, not for a celebration, not for a friendly visit, not because time has healed those wounds. He's going back because something's about to surface that his California-based team absolutely cannot handle. The PR machinery he built in Montecito, the carefully managed media appearances, the strategic partnerships, the controlled messaging, none of that is equipped to deal with what Maxwell might reveal next. None of it can contain what happens when someone with nothing to lose starts naming names and providing context that contradicts years of carefully crafted storytelling. The people he came from, those he publicly humiliated, still have something he desperately requires right now: experience in making problematic information go away.
Speaking, and her words didn't just brush against Meghan Markle's name, they pointed a manicured finger straight at her.
They've dealt with uncomfortable revelations for generations. They understand how to work behind the scenes, how to apply pressure in the right places, how to make certain information lose momentum before it becomes mainstream news. Harry walked away from all of that when he left for America. He called them toxic, he accused them of cruelty, he painted them as villains in his own account of events. But now he requires their help, because Netflix deals evaporate when controversy gets too heavy. Brand partnerships disappear when your spouse's name starts appearing in the same conversations as scandal. Major corporations don't want association with anyone whose past might include ties to problematic figures, even if nothing is ever alleged directly. It's all about perception in the realm Harry and Meghan have built for themselves, and
dropped a fork. For a moment, nobody moved.
Meghan Markle was introduced by Sarah Ferguson to Prince Harry.
They all knew.
Right now, that perception is deteriorating rapidly. So Harry faces an impossible choice. Does he publicly defend Meghan and insist that what came before is irrelevant, knowing that doing so contradicts the victim message they've been selling? How can you claim mistreatment when you might have brought significant reputational risk through the door? How do you maintain that you were pushed out when the real issue might be what was already known about your wife's background before the wedding? Or does he take the other path? Does he quietly start creating distance? Does he focus on protecting his children and salvaging whatever relationship he can rebuild before the association becomes permanently problematic? Does he let Meghan face whatever's coming without standing directly beside her? Right now, according to sources, he's in full damage control mode.
Bauer started digging like a man on a mission. He pulled archives, double-checked interviews, and cross-referenced Meghan's official biography with her.
Meeting with advisors, consulting with crisis management experts, trying to figure out how to survive what happens when this breaks into mainstream media. Because if Maxwell keeps revealing more, if additional details emerge, if other sources decide they're done protecting secrets that shield powerful people, this doesn't end with a news cycle. This becomes the defining moment of their lives, overshadowing everything else they've tried to build. So here's what it all comes down to. There's one thing that's probably keeping Harry awake at night, and it's the most critical concern of all. Did Meghan tell him the full story before he put that ring on her finger? Did she sit him down before the engagement and lay out the complete picture? The parties she attended, the people she knew, the lifestyle she was living in the mid-2000s, all of it?
Forgiven her, might have even respected the honesty that this isn't that. This is allegedly hiding, rewriting history, and pretending that.
Or did she give him a sanitized account, carefully edited, to leave out the parts that might make him reconsider? Because here's the thing, if Harry had full knowledge going in, if she was transparent about her background before they got married, then he made an informed decision. He looked at all the information, weighed the risks, and decided she was worth it anyway. That makes him complicit in whatever comes next. He can't claim to be blindsided when he chose to marry someone aware there were aspects of her history that could create problems down the line. But if he didn't have that information, if Meghan let him propose without giving him the whole picture, then that's an entirely different situation. That means he walked into this marriage without understanding what he was signing up for.
Really as if just being Ghislaine wasn't enough.
I began to see that there was a deficit there.
It means someone who recognized there were potential issues in her background chose not to disclose them to the man she was about to marry into one of the most scrutinized families in the world. And that kind of omission, like when you're dealing with this level of public attention and institutional importance, becomes its own form of deception. Either scenario puts Harry in an impossible position. If he had the facts, he's been lying by omission every time he and Meghan positioned themselves as innocent victims. If he didn't have them, then he got played by someone who was willing to risk everything. His relationships, his reputation, his standing with his own relatives, for personal advancement. And while Harry's dealing with that internal crisis, the external situation deteriorates further. Maxwell isn't stopping. She's still in that prison cell with nothing to lose and apparently a lot more she's willing to share.
There's already like a trail. Ghislaine Maxwell, according to the article, says that she did.
The visuals keep circulating, popping up faster than anyone can scrub them. People who remember things from those years are starting to compare notes, starting to piece together timelines, starting to realize that what they've been told about Meghan's pre-royal life doesn't match what they witnessed firsthand. For someone who's built an entire brand around authenticity and truth-telling, this is devastating. The carefully crafted public persona of Meghan as a humanitarian who stumbled into royalty by chance is developing serious cracks. The story of two people in love who were forced out by a cruel institution doesn't hold up if it turns out Harry's wife brought complications that the institution was trying to manage. Brand deals disappear when companies realize that associating with you means associating with ongoing controversy. Netflix might not renew when every documentary becomes a minefield of uncomfortable inquiries
of Meghan's life, one involving adult entertainment circles and private arrangements that never made it into any
about what's true and what's carefully edited storytelling. This isn't tabloid drama anymore. This isn't jealous commentators making up stories or racist critics trying to tear down a successful woman. This is about what happens when someone's history catches up with their present. It's about what occurs when the public face you've been selling to the world starts contradicting the receipts that other people have saved. It's about the moment when you can no longer control your story because too many people with too much information have decided they're done staying quiet. The fairy tale is cracking. The polished appearance is breaking apart, and Harry's scrambling to figure out how to control the damage before it takes over everything, realizing that every bridge he burned on the way out is a bridge he now desperately needs to cross back over. The real concern isn't whether more information will come out. It's whether Harry and Meghan can survive what happens when it does. So what's your take? Did Harry walk in blind, or did he understand what he was getting into? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this opened your eyes to what's really happening, smash that like button and subscribe because this situation's far from over. Maxwell's still revealing more. Additional information keeps surfacing, and you don't want to miss what comes next. See you in the next one.